Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, From the Depths of Darkness to the Light of Success. I am your host, Chris Swiech, and on this podcast, we talk about mental health, addictions, and anything anyone's afraid to talk about. At the end of the day, we're here to break the stigmas around anything. At the end of the day, everyone's story is valuable to me. Doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. All your stories matter. We all have a story, and we need to share those stories to, help others around the world and stuff like that. And with no further ado, I'd love to introduce to you my next guest. We got Hayley Waters from the Virginia area of the USA. You want to take it away and let them know a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name's Hayley. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic addict from original Washington, D.C. I'm in Northern Virginia now. Yeah, and I have a sobriety date of August 28th, 2020. So just a little over a year. Just really grateful to be here.
So what role does balance play in your life today?
Balance comes in so many different capacities for me. I have balance with my threshold, with the amount I take on. I feel like before I found recovery, I was very much a people pleaser. And I was either one side of the spectrum, like I was trying to please everyone, or I was just, you can F off. I have my own thing I got to deal with. There was no in between. Like, I've always been to the extreme. So balance is like huge for me now. Just like recognizing that there's a little space in between completely writing people off and not being of service or of any help to anyone because I'm so overwhelmed, and being able to be of service when I have the capacity to do so. And for balance is really important to me, especially with my recovery, because I can get very overwhelmed and I can't deal with this and shut down and isolate. And that's just not a good place for me to be. So I think just being aware of like what I need, my recovery comes first, like my medicines, my meetings, my fellowship, my service, and being able to do things like this. There was a point where like I had a podcast like every other weekend. I had a live on Instagram every other weekend. People are like, man, how do you do all these things? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm getting really burnt out. And it's like I found myself remembering my sponsor saying, you're not supposed to say no ever when you're asked to be of service. And also being like, okay, it's okay to say no if I need to take a break because I'm feeling sick of myself. And I think that awareness is huge, because I can't deliver a message of hope if like my heart's not in it. And if I'm feeling like run down and feeling like I just have to do it. And I just love this place now where like it's okay to say, let me schedule it next month. It's okay to say, let me get back to you. It's okay to say no. And that's with anything. I'm invited to a lot of events. I feel bad not being able to make it to every single one, but sometimes you just can't. And I think it's easier with the excuse of being in early recovery, right? Like you're like, oh, I'm in early recovery. People, yeah, she needs to focus on herself. Yeah, balance is something I have to work out every day.
I like that you say that though too. And it almost sounds like boundaries could be tied in there too. It's okay to say no today. Like I've learned to say no. And I came from a people pleasing background just like yourself, especially in active addiction and stuff like that. Always trying to be the coolest guy with all the drugs, those types of things. And that's how I attracted people. But when all that was gone, where was everyone? They weren't my friends. At the end of the day,
Absolutely.
it was just a people pleasing thing. And I've really, stopped doing that. If I don't want to do something, I'm entitled to say no today, or you're entitled to say no, just like you're talking about, or if you're feeling burnt out. It's okay to say no. It's okay to push something off.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially with the social media stuff. Like I see a lot of people that are falling off. Oh, I'm running out of steam here. And I'm like, yeah, man, like take time. I do it all the time. I just don't come out and tell anyone because I don't think enough of myself that anyone really cares. And B, it's just you guys tell them out and screw the algorithm, screw the life, screw the whatever. Just breathe.
Yeah, it doesn't. You know what? I'm not. It's funny. People ask me all the time, well, how many plays do you get on your podcast? What are your numbers? I don't care what my numbers, as long as I am enjoying it. It's an outlet for me. I feel I get lots out of it whenever I do an episode and stuff like that. The numbers don't matter to me. I'll see it once a week when I pop on to upload the next episode. I don't open it up again. So,
Mhm.
I get messages once in a while. I know I have those solid followers that follow me and stuff like that. And that's all you need. You don't need 300,000, 400,000 people following you. As long as you have a solid fan base or a solid follow, those are your followers, and cater to them though. And take care of them though too. Respond to the messages. That's what I do. I respond to the messages if people reach out to me on one of my social media platforms. I don't shut them out. Some of the bigger names do. So what would you do if you did not care what others thought?
If I did not care what other people thought, I would not filter any of my photos. I would post a picture of myself in a bikini. I would post a picture of myself just in sweatpants. I would, if I did not care about my image, I would do a lot of things differently. But I do still care what people think if I'm honest with myself, and I am honest with myself today. And I also care about the responsibility of carrying a solid message of the solution. I am hats off to people that can get on with like tears in their eyes, like, this is what real recovery looks like. Like, I'm totally all for that. But like, I also take very seriously that like sometimes when I get into a room, I don't just like problem dump as much as I want to, because that might be a like, oh, there might be a newcomer in there that, damn, like, she is still fucked up. I'm trying to be, like, in the solution and tell people that, like, yeah, the days are rough. Some things are hard. Revisiting trauma is hard, but, like, I live in the solution today. I can look at the gratitude, and I can look at, like, how far I've come and be grateful for the experience to even be able to share about it, because many of us do not make it to the other side of the dark side. And yeah, if I didn't care what anyone thought, I'd probably do a whole lot of things. I would show my kid and I were sitting on the couch with our electronics. He's on one end and I'm on the other end, not engaging at all, because sometimes that's what we do, because it's just him and I. It's been him and I since he's 7 months old. And if I didn't give a shit what anyone thought, I would not feel like I had to look like we are constantly doing fun activities together, because that's not the case. Like, he enjoys his independence. I enjoy my independence too. And I don't think there's anything wrong with us sitting on the couch. I'm on my phone and he's on his iPad or his Nintendo Switch or doing whatever he's doing. But like, to someone who has 5,000 people looking at them, that would look, what the hell? Like, that doesn't look right. And to me, I feel like that was perfectly fine, because I'm constantly engaged with this kid 24 hours a day, whether I want to be or not. Sometimes, and if you see just a little snippet of something that doesn't look like mom of the year, you worry about that judgment. And I care less and less. But like I said, if I really practice what I preach, not really giving a shit what people like thought and how they perceive me, then I would do that. But I do. Especially about being a mom. I very much want to be mindful of the fact that like I'm a mother. And I don't mind if you judge me, but I don't want anyone to ever feel like my son is taken care of the way he should be, because of my past or my present or anything that's going on. I'm very transparent, but I keep my parent stuff like, I don't really share about parenting, because that's like the one part of my life that I have not struggled in. I'm a fantastic. I always have been. That was like the one part that I did not completely destroy in my active addiction. But I'm also a single mom who lives with just my son, and I don't post his pictures all over social media because I don't trust anybody. I don't want some creep showing up at his school or showing up at like, I for real don't trust anybody. I guess that was a long way to say, yeah, I would do a lot of things differently.
And do you think, like, with your image, like you were talking about there, do we have social media to blame for that in a sense? And I'm not blaming you for that, but I mean, like, just all around in general, I think social media feeds so many negative thoughts into people's heads, in my opinion, if you go down rabbit holes and stuff like that, especially with the diet culture or whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't necessarily blame social media, because I've always had the image and insecurities before social media even like existed. I've always cared about what other people thought about me. I've always had this like this thing in my head that said I need to, that was like part of my disease, is just chameleon or being a chameleon and just like morphing into whatever you want it to be. to fit in. So I don't necessarily blame social media. I think that is a problem that I have within myself. I do think social media can be toxic, of course. I think there's such a thing as, toxic positivity. I think there's such thing as irresponsibility on social media. I think that I can't say anything really bad about social media because I feel like it's like the only reason why I'm still sober. When I got out of treatment for the pandemic, I have that issue within myself. And I could easily just say everything I just said in a post with my son and I sitting on the couch on our electronics, not even looking at each other engaged, and say everything I just said. And people would be like, you know what? She's fucking, but if I don't even want to go down that, I don't even want to get on that soapbox and take that stand. I try to keep things pretty safe, I feel.
And that's totally fine too. Like it's nothing wrong. Like I share some things that I do with my kids. Like I've mixed everything in on my page, but I don't share everything either. Like you got to keep some of your life private. And you're right though. Like my daughter's the same way. She loves her independence. Like everything from putting her seatbelt on in the car. Like I'm not even allowed to go back there. Just open the door for her, let her hop up, and that's it. And
Right.
little things like that. Or she might just want to be playing in their room with her dolls or play on her iPad too. And
Yeah.
you could be sitting at the other end of the couch on your phone or on your laptop or watching your show or the sports game or whatever it is you're into, sort of thing. And but we do take that time on the weekends, and I try to get some of her and I time in too and watch a movie or engage or go to the library, read books together, those types of things as
Yeah.
well. But they do need their independence as well. There's nothing wrong with. How would you explain your basic life philosophy today, Haley?
Oh man, I wish I got these questions in advance. It's good if it's right off the top. My basic life philosophy is to just keep doing the next right thing. It sounds super cliche, but I honestly believe that I don't know what I'm doing at all. I'm not in the driver's seat anymore. I know what my life looks like when I try to be my own manager. I'm a really shitty manager. And all I need to do is not pick up the drink and just keep doing the next right thing. It's being forgiving with someone who's being nasty to me and being understanding and just realizing they have their own thing going on, like supportive, that's doing the next right thing. If it's volunteering to do something that I have the time to do, but I don't want to do, but someone's gonna pinch, like that's doing the next right thing. I learned that every time I try to examine life too much and I try to have all the answers and want to know how everything is going to play out, that I get riddled with anxiety and fear. And so for me, my philosophy is I just need to put one foot in front of the other. And as long as I'm doing the right thing with every step, my higher power will look out for me. Like my everything will be fine. As long as I don't pick up and as long as I keep doing the right thing and stay in the present moment and remain grateful and of service, everything is gonna be just fine.
That's so true though. If you just put that one foot in front of the other and do the next right thing, whether it's helping that little old lady across the street or that little old man, or just saying hi to someone going by that may be having a bad day, helping anyone out that needs your help. I try to help out as much as I can today, but I don't burn the wick at both ends either. You got to take care of you first before you can be of service to anyone else as well. You got to take care of that mental health on a daily basis. What does it look like for you, like taking care of your mental health on a daily basis?
Taking care of my mental health is still a learning curve. I never had to do that. I've spent my entire life, including my adolescence and 20s, I'm 35 now, drinking and partying and working and making money. That's all I knew. I never learned how to take care of myself. I had no coping skills whatsoever. I was a 35-year-old woman with the emotional maturity of a 21-year-old when I got sober. I had no idea how to cope with anything. So it's like literally a learning curve, like every single month I'm learning something new about myself, but I'm learning things because my mental health regimen is waking up in the morning, like reading my daily meditation, sitting with myself, my gratitude list, my deep breathing. And honestly, my son goes to his father's house every other weekend. And I sit in my damn house and I don't do anything. And that is like my self care. Like I will sit on the couch naked and watch TV and eat grapes and whatever the hell else the stupid noon diet has me eating because that is my self care. Just like I was never able to sit with my damn self before recovery. I could not sit with myself worth anything. I had to always be doing something. I always needed a distraction. I always needed to get outside of myself. Now I'm like checking in with me like 24/7. My self care is if I find myself being passive aggressive or being bitchy, and I'm like, I need to peel back a couple layers and then take a step back and be like, okay, what's really going on? Like, what's driving? Like that, my self care is literally just like examining everything and also not looking too far into things and just remembering that every day is new. I'm still getting to know myself for the first time in 35 years and that like I'm allowed to be I'm allowed to shut down sometimes. I'm allowed to be with myself and just be alone and I could never do that before. And now I freaking love being with myself. Like I'm cool as shit to hang out with. Like, I love hanging out with me.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being by yourself. Like, even my partner, my fiance, loves her Wednesdays to herself because that's the day I do all my podcasting. That's my day off from my job. And after my daughter's done school, I go pick her up and we go for dinner and hang out. It's just her and I. And she's like, I'll be honest, because I love when you go. I get my own time. I get the house to myself. I get to
Yeah.
do whatever I want, and no one's here to bother me. And I just relax. And if like,
Uh,
she still likes to have a glass of wine or whatever. She's not like me. She's like, why can't you drink? Well, there's reasons why you don't want to see me drunk. She's never seen me drunk or nothing. I'm not a head drunk. Or not a good partner in crime to go out to the bar with. I'll go out to the bar. I'll go out and have a nice dinner and have a pop. I'm happy with that.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But she's very supportive though too, like as well. Like everyone knows, and they don't. I don't know if I was sick of it for a while, but after a while, like I've made some posts too. Like you don't need if someone says they don't drink, you don't need to question them with 50 other questions why they don't drink. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It should
Yeah.
just respect, "I don't drink," and then most people do nowadays. Most people know what I am and who I am and stuff today, and no one bothers me. I'll be
Yeah.
like, I like to have a non-alcoholic beer once in a while. That's okay with me. Like, I have a couple of those and I'm happy or whatever, but that's me, though. It's not for everyone, and
Right.
it is what it is. Like, you don't need to ask me why I don't drink. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter why. I don't know if
It
you
doesn't
get that.
matter. I actually I have gotten why you don't drink, and other than with people that like I work with, I've been like I'm in recovery. Because I'm an alcoholic. And they were like, "Oh, shit. Like, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in recovery. I don't drink because 'cause I'm an alcoholic." And, 9 times out of 10, that's awesome. That's so cool. Like, my uncle's going through this thing about this puzzle, and a dialogue is established from that. I'm very open about obviously, I'm recovery body on Instagram. I have people from high school that reach out to me to this day, and they're like, "Oh my god, like, I had no idea, and I question my relationship with alcohol." And I'll throw their profiles at people. I'm like, "Hey, this person doesn't identify as an alcoholic addict, they're just alcohol free." Like, just throw a couple profiles at them, see if this is something you're interested in, see if it's, like, something you wanna explore. If you have any questions, and people that I've taken in meetings with me, and people that I've gotten in the that I knew in another life when I was younger, or they're new. I did have someone asked me at work. She said something. I had this week where it was just all these weird moments where I realized that I was hearing a lot about people drinking alcohol, and it was all in like the worst context ever. And I remember just like sitting in the bathroom while I was peeing one day in my office, and I realized, why do I keep hearing people talk about alcohol? And it's like the worst context ever. One woman I work with said that when she gets off of work on Friday, she either goes home and cries, or she goes home, cries, takes a Xanax, and chases it down with a beer. And I was like, that is fucking sad. That was me. That was me. That is depressing. That's the most depressing thing I've ever heard of, and that was literally. And then another woman that I worked with was like, "Oh, I'm on this detox of making, like, myself a coffee," and she works in HR, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, the only bad thing is I can't have any alcohol in the detox," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that sucks." She's, "God, really? No alcohol?" And I was like, "Yeah, it sucks," and she was, "Really?" She kept pressing with alcohol, and I was finally just like, "Yeah, I don't drink, so, I would have no problem with that," and she was like, "Drink?" And I was like, no, and I always find it funny when people ask me why I don't drink because it's, like, literally drinking poison, and she was like, "Oh," and, like, that was the end of that conversation, and I just remember, like, walking to my car and being like, "What is the universe trying to tell me right now? Like, why am I hearing all these awful, weird conversations?" Do you know what I mean? It was just very strange, like, reoccurrence. I heard some other thing about alcohol with someone in passing, and it wasn't, like, terrible like the other one, but it was just, uh
Yeah, no, and I work in an environment where there's lots of drinking all the time, but I right from the get-go, like, this job, it wasn't my first job in recovery or nothing, but then in my newest job, I was straight right from the get-go, right at the interview, "Hey, I don't drink. I'm a recovering addict, a recovering alcoholic."
wow.
From the get-go, right at the interview, but they've respected me, like, ever since. Yeah, they have beers, but I can stand there, like, I'm it's alcohol really honestly wasn't my problem, like, it was the drugs. Like, if I had drugs, then I had to have them, but if I don't have the drugs,
Yep.
the alcohol never. I just don't have that problem, so but they'll have beers on a Saturday at work in the shop or whatever, and I can stand around and have a cigarette with them or whatever, and I'm not bothered by it at all, but they don't sit there and offer it to me. They don't, "Why don't you drink?" I was just straight up, like a straightforward right from the get-go, and that's how I led with it at this job. I was like, "This is the way I'm gonna go into this one. I'm gonna be straight up and honest right from the get-go," and I've never been bothered since or whatever. We've had some good story. I've told some funny stories, shit that I used to do when I was drinking or whatever, and it's like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, this is why I don't drink."
that's
But
awesome, though. That's great. I've never had anyone push it on me. I've only ever had the follow-up why, and I've never had anyone, like, push it further than that.
no, like, and I don't really have it pushed either. Yes, I've been offered, like, people that haven't seen me in a long time or my brother's friends. I remember my youngest brother got a little pissed off at his buddy, but I was like, "Shane, he didn't know that I quit smoking weed or anything," you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I said, I know how to say no for myself. I respect," but, he was pretty pissed off at his buddy that even offered it to me the one night,
that's a
but I was
that's
like, "I can hold my own, bud." But I
yeah.
know how to say no. That's where I gotta learn to say no, and I have to have the willpower to say no. If I don't learn to say no, and then I don't learn at all at the end of the day. So what's invisible and you wish people could see today, Haley?
Oh my god, dead airspace. I'm so sorry. This is a stumper. What's invisible that you wish people could see? God, Chris, what the hell? I don't know. Like my mind is going completely blank.
There
Like I was like kindness, compassion, but then my mind was like, I see those things all the time. I see people being kind. I see people being compassionate. I think charity. A lot of people that are like because they work a strong program, I imagine, they're so charitable and they're so of service to other people. But a lot of these moves they make, no one knows anything about it. Like I know some dudes and some women in the recovery community that do really awesome things, like all the time for people in need or just people in general or our community. And it never goes noticed. And like, it doesn't matter because that was a foreign concept to me before I hit recovery. I was like, if I'm being charitable, I'm doing all this nice shit. Someone's going to acknowledge me for it because that's what's like my ego. I wanted everyone to say, oh, wow,
that that
exactly. Plus, I felt like it offset all the bad shit I did. I felt like if everyone saw how wonderful I was and charitable I was, like they'd be like, "Oh, she might be a total B when she comes." But anyway, yeah, it's my self centeredness and my self centered and my ego. But yeah, I think just like being charitable, being compassionate, and being like a giver, being giving. I wish people I shouldn't say see it because it doesn't need to be acknowledged. And those people that do those things don't want 'em to be acknowledged for it. But I feel like if people saw how like common and easy it was to be so giving and just do it in your everyday routine, more people would do it. I feel like it's not so daunting looking about helping people or being of service. And I always thought it had to be this huge production before I hit recovery. And like now, like I do things all the time that I would never do in my old life because I'd rather spend the money on Amazon or go to the bar or do this or do that. And like now I just sometimes I have a little extra money in my account now because I'm drunk or drugs. And I'm just like, I do nice things and I don't need people to see it or acknowledge it. But I kind of wish like everyone could see how easy it was to like hit a link, buy some shit on an Amazon wish list for an organization that donates to like people on the ground that are homeless and continue on with their day. So yeah, I guess that would be my
So that's amazing. And in early recovery, and even I got to catch myself to this day sometimes because I was so self-centered for so long, and I'm still working on it today in almost 2 years clean today. Like I'm still doing therapy. Like I still got to catch myself. Like my fiance, I'll make it a good point. Like I'll sweep, I'll clean, I'll mop the floor. Hey, I did this today. And she's like, Chris, I don't give a shit. You don't need to fucking tell me that you did this. I will see that. It's just I'm looking for that recognition, but I don't need that recognition. It's something you got to do. It's our house. We got to take care of it and clean it. Or just I can go, I don't look for something in return today. Like even recently, like, three of us went out for lunch and I paid for lunch and dinner and or we did, me and my fiance for her friend that we hadn't seen in a while. I paid for the lunch and she paid for the dinner. And I'm not looking for something in return. And I didn't even care about that. It was nice to have some good company and we had a good time and caught up with her. And I'm not looking for something in return or calling them this week. Hey, I took you out for lunch. So you got to do that soon again for me. That's not what it is. Like,
yeah.
it'll come out full circle to you at some point, and or if you need something at some point, someone will help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It all comes back, and when it doesn't, if it doesn't come back, you still did a good thing, and you're still of service. Like that's what it's all about.
Exactly. It's about helping that newcomer. It's about taking someone out for coffee or buying that homeless person a meal or something. Or I don't mind. Like some people get mad about giving them money. Oh, give them a few bucks if they go on need to go buy a beer because that's what they need or they need to get a fix. It is what it is. I was there at one time or another too. Not to the point I was homeless. I was there begging for change or stealing, conniving, all that stuff. They're gonna get it one way or another. So it is what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, I do a whole lot of night conscious things now. If I go to an event, or like I'll take it and I'll give it to someone because there's panhandlers on every corner, and they'll be like, "Oh, they're not like they have nicer shoes on than you do. They're not really homeless." And I'm like, "But what if they are? And like, what are they gonna do? They're just gonna throw the food away anyway." Like, it's just little things like that conscious effort to think about something other than myself. And yeah, same. Just like you said, I was so self-centered. I needed to have people I needed that validation, that acknowledgement, like, of what I was doing that was so good.
Even when I was in active addiction, if I was driving by and saw the guy at the corner of the lights or getting off the highway with a sign, if I had weed, I'd give him a joint. I didn't that it was just that was me. That's the type of person I was even in
Yeah.
active addiction and stuff. So it just comes around in full circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the same actually. My neighbors, like, you name it. I was like, "Yeah, I was just a giver," but, like, totally different realm.
Is it important to make amends beyond just saying I'm sorry, Haley?
Yeah, I think okay. So I think yes and no. I think yes, it's important to not just say the words and actively act upon them. You should say you're sorry and then if the person accepts your amends and you establish like a new relationship that you have to bury it and do better, but I don't think and in your future relationships, you're not going to want to repeat the behavior and have to make another amends. So I guess that would be yes, but I also think no. I think at least for me personally, like I made a lot of amends where just saying I was sorry and cleaning up my own side of the street was like all that my sponsor and I would say that I was responsible for. There was nothing else that needed to come after that. I acknowledge the program that's made me show up at your door and I acknowledge my part in what happened and I ask if there's anything I can do to make the situation better. And that's it. Like, I'm very about the formula, if you will. I'm very traditional in that sense. I don't go off the, I don't divert from the formulas very like often.
No, I get what you're saying. So do you try to do those amends in person if you can, if they're around you, or have you done
I
phone
do.
calls, or even if you're not going to see them again or they don't want to talk to you, do you tend to write it out? I've had to write out some amends on paper and leave it at that because I don't plan to go see those people. They're not good people for me, but I still have to make amends to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I actually wrote emails and I wrote letters. I did not handwrite letters. That was actually the only thing I didn't have to handwrite. I had to handwrite everything in my damn step work, but I was allowed to do emails for my amends. And yeah, some of them were not ones that some of them were ones I didn't have to make quite yet. I just had to be willing. And then the ones that are around me, the people that are around me, and I'm still now just like getting an opportunity to start showing back up for people because I caused a lot of damage in active addiction. I caused a lot of damage. And even though people can see that I'm sober and I'm in recovery and I'm like trying to do the right thing, that doesn't take away from what I did. And I'm letting people work at their own pace. I'm very aware that like nobody has to accept my amends. And I'm also very aware that I don't bow down to anybody. So if I don't need to grovel for anyone's forgiveness. I just have to worry about my side of the street and that's it. Like period.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And even today, like I remember me and my youngest brother, we had a chat not too long ago. And the same thing, he's like, I'm having a tough time with lots of the things you did to me. And rightfully, like I did some really nasty things to him and to his house, like lots of things coming up soon. We're setting up me and my therapist, and I've been working through that and bringing I'm planning to bring my parents there to make amends with them with my therapist. She's going to help me do that, which is the way I wanted to do it. And and I think that's going to be good for me and my brother to rebuild that relationship that we once had at one point in time.
That's incredible. I didn't even think about that, getting like a third party involved. There's a lot of things that yeah, I feel like I'm not going to have a lot of resolution from. I'm not going to have one of those conversations where we hash things out and I maybe we will. I don't know at some point, but like I had to prepare myself for only but being okay with what I handed to someone at face value and like what I had to say and it no I had to really prepare myself for not hearing an I'm sorry for what I did. And I had to really prepare myself for there just being like okay and like that being the end of it. And I think that's the hardest part is you have this willingness to make this amends, you take responsibility and then you expect someone else to do it on their end and or you expect someone to forgive you more than they're really forgiving you and then you I think just like having expectations and trying to be the director, being like, "I see how this is gonna go. This is gonna fix everything." That wasn't the story for me in not every sense, but in some of the cases. So yeah, I think like you have to protect yourself too. Like you have to just do what the damn book tells you to do. You're not supposed to go above and beyond and try to make it some huge like not you with your brother, that's totally different, but like you're not don't expect some grandiose fucking kumbaya because you might be let down. I guess is like the depressing way to answer that.
No, most definitely. And you just got to take care, like you said, of your side of the street, and everything else will fall into place eventually. And not everyone has to accept your apology either at that.
Right.
And you got to come to terms with that, like you said. Not everyone's going to. And I'm lucky that I've had lots of my supporters stick by my side, my family, my kids. My son can definitely see, my teenage son can definitely see the change in his father as he tells me, he calls me or Matt texts me and says, "Hey, Dad, I'm very proud of you and how far you've come." It's nice to see those texts from
I
him these
love
days
that.
and those types of things. So it's nice.
You're breaking up
Once you
there.
start making the change, people do see it.
Yeah, I think I've seen a huge shift in the relationship I have with people. I feel like the amends is all well and good, right? That like formal amends, but like my amends are my living amends. I wrote a letter to my dad when I was in rehab. It was like the only time I wrote a letter to anyone because I didn't have a phone and I was like on blackout and I was like, oh my God, I'm like a mess. And I told him right there on like day 3 of detox that like I was really sorry for everything I did and put him through. And I just was not going to apologize anymore. I was just going to show him that like I was going to get this right. I was going to fucking do this. And I was going to, and like my recovery seeps into everything around me. Like my dad is very stoic, very military, very does not fool around. And I've never seen this man smile so much in my life than when I got sober. And parts of me feels really awful that like I was the reason why he was like not living his best life because I was like constantly causing him worry and concern. But the other part of me is, like, so grateful that I have a dad that, like, loves me that much, and just this air about him, just, like, he's so happy when he comes over, he's happy when he sees his grandson, and he tells me he never says ever, "I love you," or "I'm proud of you," or any of that shit. He just doesn't do that shit, and I'm like, he's told me several times that he's really proud of me and that just, like, when I went through other things like cancer and my son's delivery, which is really traumatic, and everything else I've been through in my life, that like he knew I could do this, that I was going to kick this thing's ass, and he knew I could do it. And it's just, I can never imagine in my life before I got into recovery, my dad ever saying stuff like that. There's this component that he has now, which is like compassion. And I know that's because like I have changed. I think he loved me, but he was so angry and so confused and hurt by not understanding my disease and choosing to live the way I was choosing because he didn't understand that I had powerlessness. He didn't know that I lost the power of choice a long time ago. He was so angry and all that's been lifted. And he now understands that this was not about choice. This was not about me not loving my son or loving my family. This was like, I was sick. And it's just blows my mind every day. Like the relationships I have with people now are so fucking different.
I love that you say that though too. It really changed my relationship with my parents. Like when I was out for so many years, drinking, drugging, whatever I was doing, physically there for my kids, physically there for my family, but mentally I was checked out for many years. But today I get a message from my dad once in a while too, just like you said, I love you and stuff like that. I love you, sir. I'm proud of you, Chris. And he has a son back that has life in him again. I was just a walking zombie for many years. And it's nice to have that relationship with all these people again and get all that negativity out of my life. All those people that I thought were my friends are gone and I ain't looking back now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we go though, how do you let go of guilt and shame today?
That's a freaking good one. I deal with this a lot. I lived with so much guilt and shame. So much, in fact, that's like all
I
my
think most of it.
yeah, I try to remember that feelings are not facts. So, as much as I want to believe sometimes that I'm unlovable or I'm incapable of this and that because I'm just so broken and so hardened by my years of addiction and all these like ridiculous fucking things I make up, I remind myself that my feelings are not facts, that I can't prove them to be facts, and I remind myself that I'm worthy, I am lovely, I'm a great mom, and that I've done amazing things, and I will continue to do amazing things because I forget how many amazing things I have done and accomplished the second that negative self-talk and those intrusive thoughts come in. I rewire my brain and try to cut them off like as soon as they pop in. I'm like, that's bullshit because you did this and you're doing this right now. That is how I do it. And it's work every day, but it gets easier every day. The more I immediately cut that thought at its source and interrupt it, the easier it becomes to not even think that way anymore.
I love that you say that though too. Like feelings are not facts. Yeah, feelings are not facts. That's gonna stick with me now. I just wrote that down, so
Oh, it
I
all.
like it. I like it. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. But before we go, where can everyone find you on social media if they want to follow you, follow your story?
Sure.
Look at your nice, encouraging and inspiring posts.
Oh man, inspiring post. I'm only on Instagram. I'm at recovery baddie. So at recovery BADIE. And yeah, if you're ever struggling, reach out, send me a DM. I don't care what time of day it is or what time zone you're in. I'm always open to chat and see if we can't get you feeling okay.
Thanks again. And before we go, please remember everyone, go head over to Apple Podcasts, leave the show a 5-star review, write a little blurb. It really helps the show out and stuff like that and gets the show out to everyone else. Or you can head over to Anchor FM and leave the show a voice message, and maybe I'll use it in a future episode. But thanks again to Hayley for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
How do I